was like, I need to start a YouTube channel. What do I do on my YouTube channel? ASMR reading of the fairy tales with my commentary. Today is a birthday present. I got a book. Well, I got 3 books, but one of the books is the complete first edition, the original folk and fairy tales of the Brothers Grimm, translated and edited by Jack Sipes. I think his name is Jack Sipes. Jackie, sorry if it's wrong. But this is the book. It's hella heavy, but this is just what I wanted. So I'm going to choose one fairy tale to read to you. They are very short, so it will be no problem. The only problem that might happen is that, first of all, I'm sweating like hell. I'm so sorry. I look like I decided to buy the store full of highlighter and then I bought it out and I don't want any customers. I use all of it every day. I go around the shelves and I do and I smear it all over me. Okay. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to read one fairy tale. I think I really liked Rapunzel. It's very short. Okay, shut up. Everyone. Shh. Rapunzel. Once upon a time there lived a husband and wife who had been wishing for a child many years, but it had all been in vain. Finally, the woman became pregnant. I wonder how. Now, in the back of their house, the couple had a small window that overlooked a fairy's garden. Oh, hell yeah, fairies. A fairy's garden filled with all kinds of flowers and herbs. But nobody ever dared to enter it. One day, however, when the wife was standing at the window and looking down into the garden, she noticed a bed of wonderful Rapunzel. Did you know that Rapunzel is actually the name of the flower, and it's fucking pretty? She had a great craving to eat some of the lettuce, and yet she knew that she couldn't get any, so she began to waste away and looked wretched. So she became sick because she could not eat any of the flower. She just really wanted a flower and she could not eat it. So she was like, oh, well, then I'm gonna die. What a woman. Okay, no, but no one cares about your comments, Julie. Shut up. Her husband eventually became horrified and asked what was ailing her. If I don't get any of that Rapunzel from the garden behind our house, I shall have to die. That is so woman-like. So one evening he quickly climbed over the high wall into the garden, grabbed a handful of Rapunzel, and brought the lettuce to his wife. Damn, this needy bitch. Then she immediately made a salad and ate it with a great zest. However, the Rapunzel tasted so good to her, so very good, that her craving for it became 3 times greater by the next day. Her husband knew that if she was ever to be satisfied, he had to climb into the garden once more. Have you never ever read any fairy tales? Not once more. It's like multiple times. So he went over the wall into the garden, but was extremely terrified when he stood face to face with a fairy. Yes, because fairies are so fucking terrifying. Angrily berated him for daring. Yeah, okay. Fairies can only fucking scream. For daring to come into the garden and stealing her Rapunzel. He excused himself as best he could by explaining that his wife was pregnant and he had it become too dangerous to deny her the Rapunzel. All right, the fairy finally spoke. I shall permit you to take as much Rapunzel as you like, but only if you give me the child that your wife is carrying. Tea, literal tea. In his fear, the man agreed to everything. Fucking man. Agreed to everything, and when his wife gave birth, the fairy appeared at once and named the baby girl Rapunzel, took her away. Rapunzel grew to be the most beautiful child under the sun. What about under the moon? But when she turned 12, the fairy locked her in a very high tower that had neither doors nor stairs, only a little window high above. Whenever the fairy wanted to enter the tower, she would stand below and call out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair," because I've been babbling all this time. Rapunzel had radiant hair, as fine as spun gold. Each time she heard the fairy's voice, she unpinned her braids and wound them around a hook on the window. Then she let her hair drop 20 yards and the fairy would climb up on it. Can you imagine? Like, I don't know how big the fairy is, but if we imagine Mother Gothel as a fairy, right? It's a full grown woman and she is busty and dusty and she has thighs and she's curvy. And she was bigger than Rapunzel in the Disney movie. And she climbed up her hair. Can you imagine what her head feels like? Can you imagine your hair being pulled that way down for a person to climb it up a high tower? I would cut it myself. One day, a young prince. A young prince went riding through the forest and came upon the tower. He looked up and saw a beautiful Rapunzel at the window. When he heard her singing with such a sweet voice, he fell completely in love with her. How easy was it? How easy was it, right? Now we have to check. Are you okay mentally? Do you have mommy daddy issues? How much do you have on your bank account? Do you have any sensory issues? Where are you on the spectrum? Okay, alright. Past traumas. Look at someone in the window. Hear them sing. Fall in love. There you go. If you cannot find someone, just lower your expectations. I'm sorry if that was too much, but that is how I feel. And it's so fun how they do it. How they do it in the fairy tales. You're like, oh my god, she does not even talk. I love her. However, since there were no doors in the tower, did you fucking check, you freak? And no ladder could ever reach her high window. Did you try? He fell into despair. Homeboy got depression. Nevertheless, he went into the forest every day until one time he saw the fairy, who called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." As a result, he now knew what kind of ladder he needed to climb up into the tower. What do you mean the ladder? It's the hair. The hair is not the ladder. Stupid brother Grimm. Who wrote that? Which one of you wrote that? He took careful note of the words he had to say, and the next day at dusk he went to the tower and called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." That was a fucking masculine fairy, you know. If she could not differentiate if that was a fairy or a prince, imagine a fairy being like, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." So she let her hair drop, and when her braids were at the bottom of the tower, he tied them around him. Fucking poor hair. And she pulled him up. At first Rapunzel was terribly afraid, but soon the young prince pleased her so much. That she agreed to see him every day and pull him up into the tower. What do you mean pleased her? I hope he just brought her ramen. Okay, that's it. I'm not gonna think about it more. Thus, for a while, they had a merry time and enjoyed each other's company. this until one day Rapunzel began talking and said to her, "Tell me, Mother Gothel, why are my clothes becoming too tight? They don't fit me anymore." "Oh my god." "Oh, you godless child," the fairy replied. "What's this I hear? Oh my god." So she immediately realized that she had been betrayed and became furious. Then she grabbed Rapunzel's beautiful hair, wrapped it around her left hand a few times, picked up a pair of scissors with her right hand, and snip snap, the hair was cut off. Afterward, the fairy banished Rapunzel to a desolate land where she had to live in great misery. In the course of the time, she gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. On the same day that the fairy had banished Rapunzel, she fastened the braids that he had cut off to the hook of the window, and that evening when the prince came and called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair," she let the braids down. But then when the prince climbed up into the tower, he was astonished to find the fairy instead of Rapunzel. "Do you know what, you villain?" the angry fairy said. "Rapunzel is lost to you forever." In his despair, the prince threw himself from the tower. He escaped with his life, but he lost both eyes. How the fuck did he fall? So everything is okay, but the eyes. Sadly, he wandered around the forest, eating nothing but grass and roots, and did nothing but weep. Some years later, he made his way to the desolate land where Rapunzel was leading a wretched existence with her children. When he heard her voice, it sounded familiar at first, and then he immediately recognized it. She recognized him too and embraced him. 2 of her tears fell upon his eyes. Then his eyes became clear again, and he could see as usual. What the fuck? So he was stalking her. He was trying to get into her apartment, and then he tricked her. Well, kinda. I think she saw him and she was like, "Yeah, I cannot go down, but he can go down, if you know what I mean." And then they made babies, and then she was like, "Ooh, my clothes too tight. I don't know what sex is, so I don't know the result of the sex." You know what I'm saying? And that stupid guy was like so stupid. Like, do you really think that you can just come into the house? By the way, climb into the house on someone's hair and then impregnate them? Beautiful fairy tales, should we